The Labour leadership race. Let's show you the 5 candidates still in the running. 2 of them, Emily Thornberry and Rebecca Long-Bailey, are officially launching their leadership campaigns later today. We're going to... There they are, the 5 candidates. We're going to talk to Lara McNeil, the youth representative on Labour's National Executive Committee, in a moment. Oh, there she is. She's also a member of Momentum and a supporter of Rebecca Long-Bailey for the leadership. Lara, welcome to the show. Momentum balloted their 40,000-odd members, asking them to back Rebecca Long-Bailey as the next leader. But only 7,300 people responded to the survey. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement of her, is it?
The people who voted obviously overwhelmingly voted for her, so I think it is an endorsement. In these kind of ballots, it's never a really high turnout. That's actually why I support, in a lot of areas, you know, representative democracy, having committees that are voted on with a big turnout and big campaigns, and then they're the ones who make the decisions and they're representative of the politics of the members. If you have ballots on everything, they're not always a high turnout. But I think it's definitely a mandate for Rebecca. I think she's clearly the left candidate who Momentum should support, who's going to carry on with the kind of policies that we've seen over the last 4 years. All
right, well, let's have a look at the question, because this is what the ballot from Momentum said. Should Momentum follow the National Coordinating Group recommendation to endorse Rebecca Long-Bailey as the next leader of the Labour Party, yes or no? Is that a fair question?
Yes, I think if there was overwhelming support from another candidate, then they would vote no. I think it's very clear that Rebecca is the only candidate who matches the values of Momentum. So I think it's obvious that people should back her, and I think it's right that the elected NCG of Momentum, which is elected by its members, was able to express a view on this.
All right, Rania, what do you think? You're backing Jess Phillips. What was your view on the Momentum ballot?
Well, I think we talk about the values of Momentum. I think what really matters is the value of the Labour Party and the values of the country. I think the ballot was fundamentally undemocratic. A ballot has to include every single candidate, or it's not a democratic ballot. But also, I think bigger than this, we now have had the worst defeat for Labour since 1935. We need a clean break to speak to the country and actually try and rebuild some of that trust, because otherwise we are going to be out in the wilderness for 10, 15, 20 years.
So, Lara, undemocratic, the ballot, according to Rania?
Oh, I don't agree with that. I think it was the right decision to back Rebecca as the members voted. And look, Rebecca is rooted in the kind of communities that we need to win back. And that's why I think that she would actually win a general election. And I completely agree. It's about winning government and it's about the values of the Labour Party. Rebecca's part of a generation, a new generation of younger 21st century socialists who have the answers to the key questions that working people are asking today. And actually, we're looking at the result and saying people lost trust in Labour, and we need a candidate who is going to win back trust in those communities. And I think Rebecca's the only candidate who is able to do that. Basically, members have a choice between the architect of some of our most popular policies in the Green Industrial Revolution, or in Keir Starmer, the architect of our most disastrous policy in the second referendum policy. So I think it's pretty clear who is going to be more popular with Labour members and the general public.
I think, firstly, there are 5 candidates. It's not a 2-horse race. We're not at that stage yet. We're at very early stages of the leadership election. But I think, more importantly, the most important poll ever in this country is the general election. And we failed at the general election. We took our policies to the country and they said no. And I think Rebecca Long-Bailey was at the heart of that. She was the architect of a lot of those policies that people said no to. And we need to listen. We are just feeding. We're listening to ourselves. We're feeding our own egos. And we're not actually listening to the country, listening to what they've said to us.
Right, but you do have to get selected and elected
Absolutely.
as the Labour candidate. I mean, when we look at Jess Phillips, I mean, her great hope was to get members of the public to sign up as registered supporters of the Labour Party and vote for her as the next leader. Now, we've learnt that only 14,700 people wanted to do that, compared with 180,000 in the last leadership election in 2016 with Jeremy Corbyn. So she hasn't captured the imagination either, Jess Phillips.
I think, firstly, that registered supporters figure is only one part of the picture. We also have a lot of people who have joined affiliate societies, such as JLM, and lots of people who have also rejoined the party, having left under Jeremy Corbyn. So I think that's also really important. And bigger than that, I also think that the current support that Rebecca Long-Bailey has is not on the same scale that Jeremy Corbyn had in 2015 and 2016. That very hard left bloc is fracturing, and that is very hopeful for the future of our party.
Right, Lara, what do you say to that? I mean, there isn't the support that there was for Jeremy Corbyn. It's true, isn't it?
I don't think it's true, and I don't think it's a hard left bloc either. It was the majority of Labour members, registered supporters and affiliated supporters in our trade unions, which represent a lot of working class members. So, you know, he won on first preferences. So it wasn't a hard left bloc. I think people saw in Jeremy a change, and that's why they supported him. I think Rebecca does have a lot of support in the Labour Party, and it's not just people who voted for Corbyn, it's people from all wings of the party. And I think as she maps out her plan in her campaign, I think it will be clear why people are supporting her. She's going to say today about how she plans to democratise not just the party but the country, and handing power back into the hands of working people who feel for too long that decisions are not made in their interests, and they're made in a faraway political establishment. And I think that kind of message is something that Labour members are going to respond to. So, yeah, I think she'll win.
This is a leadership election, so obviously you are going to see divisions between the candidates. But, I mean, how damaging or helpful is this to Labour in the aftermath of its biggest defeat since 1935?
What to be playing out in public and having these spats factionally. I think it's pretty damaging, to be honest. It does sort of continue some of the difficulties that I think lots of on-the-fence voters had in really being able to get behind Labour, because they're just so unsure as to where this party is heading to, and some people think it's drifting, some people think it's drifting one direction, another direction, because it's so unclear really what the future of this party is. Because, you know, the difference between Jess Phillips and the difference between someone like Rebecca Long-Bailey is absolutely massive. So it's quite hard to sort of find your own place within Labour. It says it's a broad church, but it's so fractured and splintered that actually I think having this you don't want it to turn into a toxic leadership debate, but there always is that threat. And when, you know, I think we're going to have we've got two more pictures today. We've got Emily Thornberry and Rebecca Long-Bailey's doing her launch in Manchester this evening. So we'll see how much mudslinging goes on later on this evening.
Well, let's talk about something specifically, because there has been something of a row that's broken out between the candidates over the issue of abortion, and this follows comments by Rebecca Long-Bailey. The website Red Raw have reported that she said last month, "It is currently legal to terminate a pregnancy up to full term on the grounds of disability, while the upper limit is 24 weeks if there is no disability. I personally do not agree with this position." Let's just show you this tweet from Jess Phillips, who has in response said, "Because lots of people are asking me, I always have and always will trust women to make the decisions about their bodies. For me, that isn't just a passive view. It has taken struggle and effort for that right to choose to exist. I will continue to be active in that struggle." Lara, is there an issue with what Rebecca Long-Bailey has said?
Look, let's be explicit here. Rebecca Long-Bailey is completely pro-choice. I was the person who proposed the amendment to the manifesto to include decriminalisation of abortion and upholding women's reproductive freedoms, and that is what Rebecca supported. It's an issue very close to my heart as a future medical professional, and I think that is something that we need to be explicit about as Labour, and Rebecca has always been pro-choice in that. We are looking at the quotes that you say, and the news coverage comes from an anonymous fringe website which has a history of misogynistic attacks on female Labour candidates on the left of the Labour Party. So we shouldn't be taking this seriously at all. It's an attempt to smear someone based on the fact that they started looking at, oh, she's Catholic, so let's look at things we can
really?
get her on.
All right, Fraser?
Well, it's funny, this might be a factor in leadership, but in Britain, these issues are always individual matter of consciousness.
And she says it's her personal view.
Yeah, I mean, but parties never really say, we want you to vote this way or that way in abortion. I guess, I mean, any Catholic standing for public office is going to be given this
Jacob
sort of...
Rees-Mogg had quite
Yeah,
a
absolutely. It's pretty tough now. You're basically given a sort of secular inquisition, and they will always go after you on this way. It's no surprise that people are coming after her. I guess she might have to find, as Tim Farron found, is there a clash between personal issues of faith and a party with more robust liberal views? Jason?
I'm just astonished at the sort of criticism of reporting what she said. I mean, that is what Rebecca Long-Bailey said, but yet it's somehow being disputed. I'm astonished at that. I think, you know, it's an interesting battle for Rebecca Long-Bailey to take on. I don't think she probably meant to get into it. I don't really think it will make a massive difference in the contest.
You don't think it'll damage her case or her...
I don't think... I don't think it's a primary voting concern for a lot of people, but clearly It's an odd one for her to take on.
I mean, this is something that often comes up in leadership elections, not just the issue of abortion, but people's personal views. That's what comes out in these sorts of discussions. What impact will it have?
I think I would disagree with Jason. I think it will have a significant impact, particularly with the Labour Party membership. I think this is an issue that's very close to a lot of people's hearts in the Labour Party. So I think it will have an impact. I think Rebecca needs to clarify her comments. I think she also needs to explain why she hasn't voted for amendments that have made it easier for women to seek abortions in Parliament.
She did vote in favour of decriminalisation
yes,
in
eventually,
Northern
but there were
Ireland.
other ones that she abstained on.
Right. What is it you're not sure about in her position?
I think she just needs to clarify what her position is when it comes to abortion, what the limit, whether she thinks there should be an increase or a decrease in the limit, and whether her personal views will ever impact legislation.
Lara?
She's already been very clear on that. She's pro-choice. She supports the decriminalisation of abortion, and you can see that in her voting record. This is honestly astonishing conversation to be had, and I think it comes from a very bigoted place.
Why is it astonishing, Lara? Because as Jason was saying, it is what she said, and that's what we're discussing. I mean, are you saying she didn't say that, or she thinks something else?
In the quote, she was very clear on her personal views about she was reflecting the views of disabled people who said about the term limits on abortion. She said in the quote already that it's never affected how she sees changing the law, but she is pro-choice. She's not trying to restrict abortions for anyone, and it's ludicrous to suggest that is the case.
No, that is clear. It is about a level playing field as she sees it in terms of disability. It should be the same number of weeks.
It's being portrayed as if she is somehow pro-life. Let's scrutinise.
No, I think we were very
records.
clear about saying that her views have been expressed exactly as she says them, and that she is pro-life. Jason?
Well, you just seem to be suggesting before that the website should be disregarded because it perhaps appeals to sort of a less momentum type Labour person. I mean, that is what she said. I don't think there can be any disputing that.
It's funny now that the test isn't so much what you would do in policy. The test is what is in your heart, what do you believe? And this is what Tim Fallon found during the election campaign before last. They were saying, look, we don't care what you think about policy. What do you personally believe? If you're religious and you stand for the top office, you can expect this. And this is what we're seeing now. It's relatively new. And I think this will not be the last that Rebecca Long-Bailey hears about her issue of conscience here.
All right, Lara, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk about the issue